d'introduire Debora Baldelli, qui nous vient de Lisboa, au Portugal. Debora est ethnomusicologue et elle travaille actuellement sur sa thèse en ethnomusicologie à l'Université nouvelle de Lisbonne. Elle a obtenu son master à Rio de Janeiro et elle a déjà publié une monographie en fait dans l'anthropologie de musique et sur les relations raciales dans le contexte d'expression musicale. Donc elle nous présente un papier sur la pratique musicale de Hare Krishna au Portugal et une identité transnationale religieuse en cours de développement. Merci Debora.
Good morning. So this is a work in progress. So I will present today some preliminary results of my PhD research among the Hare Krishnas in Lisbon. I'm developing a multi-sited ethnography in Lisbon and on the internet. I intend to discuss how the devotees develop collective religious identity in a context of mobility through their musical experience. My work is based on ethnography field research in Lisbon, and I've been following in person or virtually devotees in other territories such as Brazil and in India. And I also want to argue about the importance of the internet to devotees as a way of communicating and also as a place to express devotion and to create bonds with the Hare Krishna community worldwide. So in this presentation, I will focus on two research questions. The first one is, can a change of context reframe identity? And the second one is, what can the constant displacement or mobility tell us about the construction of the subjectivity of an individual? So first things first, who are the Hare Krishnas? So the Hare Krishna movement it started in, the devotees. So, okay, sorry. The Hare Krishna movement is composed by devotees of Krishna, one of the central deities in Hinduism. Vaishnavism is also known as Gaudiya or Chaitanya Vaishnavism, and it was founded by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in India in the 16th century. But the Hare Krishna movement, and I say movement as a emic term, was founded by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in New York in 1966. And his idea was to bring faith, the faith of Krishna to the West. So he founded the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, usually known as ISKCON. And by 1967, he already started to propagate in the US and also in other countries. Since then, the movement was spread in countries like Australia, countries in Latin America and India, and more recently in Eastern Europe. In Portugal, the International Association for Krishna Consciousness was registered as a religious and cultural non-profit entity in '81, but its first activities started in 1974 when devotees from different countries such as Spain, Mozambique, Brazil, and also Canada stopped by in Portugal and decided to give a lecture or play in the streets. So that's how it started. So in the Hare Krishna community in Portugal is a very transnational community, and it's composed by predominantly from devotees from Brazil, Russia, Ukraine, Nepal, and India, and as well as Portuguese from the former African colonies who returned to Portugal after the Carnation Revolution in 1974. The Carnation Revolution established democracy in Portugal and also abolished the prohibition of non-Catholic religious practice. So mantra chanting plays a central role in the spiritual practice and temples activities of Hare Krishna's devotees. Singing mantras precede lectures, meals, and ceremonies. In every activity, there is always a specific set of mantras to sing in a call and response mode. Krishna devotees believe in the power of mantras to bring well-being into their lives through constant repetition that takes place individually and collectively in the semi-public space of the temple. So now I'm going to show just a video from inside the temple just to get some of the atmosphere. So Hare Krishna is on the move. This picture is from the World Cup in Brazil in the finals. The Hare Krishna guru from Portugal went to the World Cup to sing and pray. So, although Hare Krishna devotees in Portugal constitute a small community, there is an intense solidarity among them and between temples across several nations. It is a community in constant change with seasonal migrants and long-term visitors from all around the world that take part in the temple's activities. Devotees' spiritual practice motivate their mobility, visiting their gurus, attending or participating in lectures or playing mantras in several Hare Krishna events and festivals around Europe, India, and Brazil are very common. A considerable number of devotees from Portugal attended initiation courses in other countries like Spain or France. That's because Portugal actually lacks the necessary means to expand its community, so it receives supports from larger communities such as Spain and also Belgium. I'm going to show another video now. The Hare Krishnas in the streets, just to give some idea. That's my favorite part of the fieldwork. So Hare Krishna devotees' musical experience also impels their mobility. So since the community is very small, trips to other communities provide an opportunity to join much larger groups to practice mantra singing, accompanied by highly skilled musicians of Mirindanga, harmonium, and karatalas, which are the three main instruments for the devotees' music practice. So in informal conversations, devotees often narrate this experience with great excitement. So since many devotees show an interest in musical practice, this large meeting creates the perfect opportunity for a deeper spiritual experience. So in addition to interaction within temples, Hare Krishna devotees interact also through the internet, which is a medium that also facilitates their mobility. Devotees not only travel to different cities to attend activities related to their spiritual practice, but often live in other cities and countries for different periods of time. So interaction through the internet, especially participating in social networks, watching live ceremonies, or attending university courses, also is a means of sharing information among the worldwide Hare Krishna community. The internet, especially videos on YouTube and other social networks, also enhances playing devotional instruments. The internet also provides advanced mantra players the opportunity to acquire new melodies. So when analyzing devotional videos on YouTube, Monique Ingalls seeks to demonstrate how these videos can develop a sense of audiovisual devotion, where online and offline become conjoined in a new and complex ways. For the author, the use of social media to publish religious musical content is a way to also create bonds with the community, as well as to connect themselves with a divine presence. In addition, devotional videos, whether live or on social networks, are a way of extending the community's devotional experience, as well as maintaining and developing bonds with the transnational community of Krishna's devotees. Online fieldwork was one of my main communication tools among devotees and complemented the interaction in the temple. In fact, most of online conversations concerned matters that devotees wanted to discuss in private or outside the temple. Interacting online was also a way of understanding the transnational extent of devotees' communications and how certain communities related to each other. It helped me find out who is connected with whom and where, and also made it possible for me to map what kind of interaction takes place through social media, such as pages they follow, who they talk to, and what videos on YouTube they like, and also their ideas about politics and other issues outside the Hare Krishna movement. It is through Facebook that I sometimes find out where the devotees are or where they want to be. This is how I find out that my mantra teacher was moved to Japan while I was in Brazil doing my fieldwork. It was also how I found out that the guru from Portugal was in Brazil during my fieldwork, because I didn't know that before. He just decided to go. That's how it happens usually. Because of virtual social networks, okay. The guru case was interesting because he was moving from town to town, and it was World Cup, so it was kind of complicated to be changing cities all the time. But I was able to follow him when I was not able to be there. I was able to follow him through Facebook because I added some of the devotees traveling with him, so I had the videos and photos, and I knew where he was. So that's the final part. He only for the time of milking the cow, certainly in the house of the householder, waits the most fortunate pilgrimage transforming the residence. He was accustomed to stay at the door of a householder only long enough for a cow to be milked, and he did this just to sanctify the residence. This quote is from the Bhagavad Gita, and I think it's allusive of the devotees' mobility I intend to address in this paper. So this quote was mentioned by Travadasa, as a Brazilian devotee I met in Portugal, but now he's living in Bauru in São Paulo, in Brazil. And he mentioned this quote during a conversation in the short period I stayed with them in Bauru. When I asked him about what he thought would be the starting point of the association between religion and mobility. And as usual, they recur to Hare Krishna books and scriptures to answer questions. So the above quote speaks precisely of pilgrimage and the need to be in motion to propagate their spiritual practice to more people. And the impermanence is defined as only long enough for a cow to be milked. So reference about the Hare Krishna's mobility in books may also be more contemporary, as a recent publication in Portuguese by a guru named Indra Dilma Swami in 2010 called Diary of a Traveling Monk. In this book, the Swami reports his visits to Kenya, India, Ireland, South Africa, and the United States. And it's also the name of his website, where he published his diaries every year since 1995. So mobility is encouraged as a revealing spiritual experience. It is very common for recently initiated devotees to go on a preaching trip with their gurus for a very long time. It has to be said that, of course, the spiritual or religious mobility is not exclusive of the spiritual practice of the Hare Krishna, but I think that the particularity of the devotees' mobility perhaps lies in them considering it as a lifestyle connected to their spiritual development. So added to that, the Hare Krishna mobility can be seen as a practice of spiritual development. They use musical practice through singing as its main tool. It is when they sing, whenever they are, that they can communicate with other devotees, even when they don't speak the same language. And this also happens in Portugal, because it's a very diverse community. So one can also say that mobility is associated with devotees' motivation to have access to different social spaces for sociability for their spiritual practice, mainly temples and festivals with the largest number of devotees and greater possibility of devotional interaction. To contribute to this discussion, a recent area of study known as lifestyle migration have sought to investigate migration and mobility motivated by the pursuit of well-being and alternative lifestyle that also includes spirituality. These are some publications on this area. So following this area of study, I propose to think of the Hare Krishna's mobility as a lifestyle mobility, or maybe call it a spiritual mobility. So we can focus on discussing conceptions of mobility motivated by practice related to spirituality. The movement is always in movement is an informal saying between Hare Krishna's devotees that points to the need of thinking about mobile ethnographies, ethnographies following people and their connections to places to which they relate, and also that recognize the importance of thinking about other ways of doing ethnography. So multi-seated fieldwork can add to the debate concerning the boundaries of the spaces where communities are experienced, leading to a better understanding of what rules them and of its own dynamics. In the case of the Hare Krishna devotees in Portugal, their territory becomes all the locations where devotion and the development of their spiritual practice seem to make sense. As França, a Brazilian anthropologist, I suggest to think about the meaning of places and how people are constituted also through places. So for the devotees, I think its borderland are eventually mediated by the social networks that they build through the Hare Krishna movement while in transit. So the sense of place narrated by devotees seem to be the Hare Krishna movement itself and its presence in different territories around the world. It is the place where their identities find a space to create a sense of belonging they don't find in the life out there. It is from the necessity of reaffirmation of this sense of belonging that the circulation in localities where this sense can be exercised creates the incitement for devotees to find a confirmation of the viability of their mobile spiritual lifestyle in being in movement in Hare Krishna movement. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. You said on your part that you hope that this paper will contribute to the discussion of mobile ethnographies, and it definitely does. We have really a good example of a concrete mobile ethnography. Il y a déjà deux questions. Serena, Hugo. Hugo, peut-être d'abord.
Thank you very much. 3 short questions. First, about the fieldwork. Was it difficult to work and to make fieldwork among this community, which is very close to? Second, maybe the songs have very few lyrics, but maybe I'm wrong. But the songs we listen to have only few lyrics, so I was wondering, what is there a message conveyed by the lyrics or not, and where is the message, except exporting Hare Krishna, Krishna in the West? And third, is there discourses and narratives and about music, the role of music in proselytism, because it is used as a tool for not evangelization but okay, you understood. So, is there a discourse about it by the devotees?
The third question. What about the discourse?
Do they discuss about music, how to use music as a tool for proselytism? Yeah.
Proselytism. Okay. So, in Portugal, actually, the fieldwork was not very complicated because they are a small community. They always want people to participate, and they also need people that play instruments. So when they heard that I was studying music, it was very easy to communicate with them. And so the way that I started my fieldwork was actually having music lessons, and that's how I got more intimate and started playing with them, and then the fieldwork just worked perfectly. And about the message on the lyrics, well, they have this main mantra, the one that everybody knows, which is actually different ways of saying the name of God, of Krishna. And they say that when you repeat the name of Krishna, you are with Krishna. You're talking to Krishna directly. So if you, as more as you can repeat the name of Krishna, the better you are connected with God. So it is the main tool, because this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who started this process, he wanted to actually to make a process that was very simple, that everybody could do it. Everybody could do it, could achieve enlightenment very easily. So he decided that the mantra was the main thing, the only thing that people should do to achieve enlightenment. So that's why it's main tool. So usually Hare Krishnas, they have a lot of rules about food, about clothes, and about a lot of things, but they usually say, if you're repeating the mantra, it's all right. You can just, you're in the correct path, you know.
Questions?
Just a little question about the tune, because I don't know if maybe in the bibliography that you show this topic is, but I realize only now that the tune of the melody, the tune of the song that we listen to in the street, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Also in Italy we have this from the 70s. Is the same of a very popular American song that. It was very popular in the 60s in the version of Woody Guthrie. This land is my land, this land is your land, from California to New York Island. So I don't know if there are someone who studies this, because it's a sort of musical connection in the movement of EP, I think, yes.
Okay. I think Hare Krishnas have an amazing ability to fit the Hare Krishna mantra in almost every melody that you can hear. So they have one that is very famous, Amazing Grace. There is a wonderful version of Amazing Grace with the Hare Krishna mantra. And they also sing in different styles. You can hear Hare Krishna mantra in reggae and in metal, in samba, and whatever you want. So I don't know. I'm not that musical to know details, but I think that maybe the melodies is flexible in a way that you can the lyrics actually that can fit in a lot of different styles. And I think what they mean with that is that the most styles they can sing the Hare Krishna mantra, the more people they can attract, because people have different tastes for music. So I think that's maybe.
Yes, but it's because it's normal now that metal and other popular stars are into religious music. This, I think, is something older. It's for that because this song, this tune for Hare Krishna is very, very spread in the world. I listened in Italy really in the 70s, not now. So maybe there is, in your research, maybe a little part. You're an anthropologist and not a musicologist, of course. But why really this melody, this tune? It's not a problem of genre.
Yeah,
it's a folk American music.
I don't know if I can answer this question, because actually they don't. What they say is that they are more worried about the lyrics than the melody. So I think that's.
No, but you are not obliged, of course.
No, it's just that I think that for them it's usually they choose the melody. The melody is connected to their taste. So when I started having lessons, after I started playing the harmonium a little bit better, my teacher wanted me to find the melodies that I liked to have a repertoire. So it's somehow personal. I think the melody they choose to sing. It's I don't know if I answered.
Thanks. Wait, one last question.
Thanks for a very interesting paper. My question is related to the two that have just happened, and I was thinking about how low the entry level is musically, and so this is probably some of the success of the movement. In Santeria, you need years of study to plan a ceremony. So you said the person who developed this was actually thinking about that, of making it accessible, but do you know if he was thinking about globalization and packaging it for a foreign market, or did this start as a movement for Indian people? Because that would be very telling, actually, as to how the music developed and with what intention, and what was the source of that musical impulse?
It was intended for Western people, actually. Actually, one of Prabhupada main's desires was he went to New York in a very specific period of time. I think the United States was in its boom, economically, and so he thought that it was a way of making it more spiritualized. So he really wanted to bring the Oriental spiritual practice to the Westerns specifically. And actually now there's a different project in the Hare Krishna movement, which is very interesting because it's they have in the United States specifically a problem with the Hare Krishna movement. It's getting shorter. And because a lot of Indians are participating in the Hare Krishna movement, and they say it makes it more radical. They are more not that flexible about how things go and how the music is played and all the rules and everything. So they started a project called Krishna West. So when they say that you don't have to wear Indian clothes, you don't have to eat Indian food, you can just sing the mantra and be a Western, but just keep practicing the Hare Krishna mantra. So there's a new project. I think it's a response to that, I think, to this change. Because when the Hare Krishna movement started, a lot of different spiritual practice and New Age things were happening. So we're in a different moment now. A lot of options. So they were, I think they're trying to attract as much as they can. I don't know if I answered.
Yeah.
Sorry, what came first, George Harrison and the Hare Krishna, or, well, that had to follow, but surely the Beatles' popularisation of...
Yeah, George Harrison helped a lot.
Yes, thanks a lot for this interesting session on localization of religious practices. We had 3 wonderful examples of these global movements which succeed because they managed to root their musical practices into the local reference system. This was something which I really appreciated. Thanks a lot for the 3 of us. And
understand the other papers, but I didn't.
Sorry?
I really wanted to understand the other papers.
But as they had a lot of material, that was very good to get at least the, the examples.
was unscrewing
Oh,
it.
okay.
So.
And that's your son?
Yeah.
So you're the first one after the break?
Yeah. I'm going to hold on just a second. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I have it so that I have to go in and connect like manually. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I could do this and this. Yeah. And then the sound.
Juste pour laisser en faire, Pierre-Luc, on va faire un test de son.
Let's see.
Quand vous voulez.
Just make sure your sound is at maximum.
Oops. Yeah. I'm gonna look for the. Yeah.
Adapter for religious things.
Yeah. So. Let me go grab that really quick. All right. Thank you.
Vous avez le CD?